Okay, sorry about this technical difficulties. I still have to fix this laptop.
Zeba, can you check email?
Okay, guys. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Can you hear me?
Good morning,
Can you
doctor.
please confirm
Good morning, sir.
if I'm audible? Okay, can you hear me loud and clear?
Doctor. Yes,
Okay.
doctor.
For those who can open their video, can you please try to open your so I can familiarize? Can you please try to open your video, please? While waiting for your LO to do the screen sharing, if you can see my laptop in my video, this will be the topic for today's discussion, demography. Can you confirm if you can see my video?
Yes, doctor.
Yes. Okay. LO, can you do the screen sharing?
1 minute, please, sir.
Not yet. Have you received the email?
It's with
Yes,
Zeba.
doctor.
Jeva?
Yes, doctor. I have got the email. I have sent it to Bharat Raj. Due to the network issue, it is getting very slow. He'll
Okay.
get in 2 minutes. Sorry for the delay. I apologize for it.
Okay. Maybe we can start. I'll just going to give you some brief introduction on the topic. Dr. Andres, thank you po. So, why we are very concerned or particular with demography? When you hear the word demography, what is it in the term or the word demography that really concerns us? Okay, guys, we want to have an engagement on this discussion. It's not just me gonna be talking all day. You can use the chat box. You can use, or you can actually unmute yourself to answer questions, practical questions. Demography, what comes to your mind when you hear the word demography? Okay, this is what I really hate about the online class.
Freedom, sir.
Huh? Yes?
Freedom.
What is it?
Freedom.
Freedom?
Sir, it's
Demography,
statistics.
not democracy.
Sir, it's statistics about the population.
Huh? About the population, okay. What else? You made me laugh. Freedom is demography. It's democracy. We're talking about demography. Okay, I hear the word population. You are trying to describe a population. What else?
Statistics.
So it's
Okay.
about birth, death rate, and income of the population.
Okay. Scientific study of the human population. Okay. You see, it's very easy to answer because you can actually look the answer in the Google right away. No, even without me looking into your video, you can easily answer them. But in your own words, I would actually hear about characteristics of the population. How are you going to describe a given population? No, why do we need to know about demography? Why do we need to describe the population? What actually gives us? What does it give us, researcher, or in the community medicine perspective? What is the significance of knowing the characteristic or description of a population? Why?
Sir, it will give you a general idea of the health of the public or whether the medication is successful or unsuccessful among the public.
General idea about the health. It could probably, yes, it could actually give you the overall well-being or probably the status, health status of a given population in a community. That's correct. You could probably also look into, can I actually have idea on the, not just the health, but also, okay, now we have the slides. Okay, next slide, please. Can I also have an idea, not just the health status, but also about, for example, the age group, the gender, okay, the productive years group, those who are aging, those who are prone or risk to certain diseases, those who are working, those who are dependents, those who are 5 years old and below. So it's not just talking about the health status, but characteristics of a population basing on different category or aspects. It can also give us idea on what could be appropriate health programs, or it could also give us an idea of what could be the health practices, or a picture of what could be the diseases that is actually prevalent among this area, among this community or locality. It could also give us an overall picture of what could be the best intervention that we can think or plan with the community. So you have to know clearly who are the people you are serving. You have to know clearly, no, familiarize yourself on their way of living by looking into demography, right? How would you able to serve your community if you don't know your community itself? If you don't know exactly what could be their source of income or livelihood, what could be their actually exposure to certain illnesses or diseases, what could be the resources that are actually available. So demography is somehow interrelated, no, in the way of living of the people. That is why we have a lot of people working, because of the area is actually close or nearby a factory or a commercial area where people can easily work there. We have a group of people that are actually fishermen, and out of their fishermen, no, what are the level of their knowledge also, or educational attainment, and how many children do they have? Is it enough? The income, you think it's gonna be enough to feed their children? These things, no? Demography can actually depicts a lot of information. It can give us a lot of information. So it's not just describing a population, but looking closer on the details and how people live in that particular area. Next slide. So the demography is actually technical definition of this would be the science of population, meaning we study the details of a population. It's actually first used by Achille Gillard, the natural and social history of human species, or the mathematical knowledge of population. Meaning, you can actually put numbers or quantify them. You're not just actually describing them, but you can also quantify them on their general changes, on their physical, civil, intellectual, and even moral conditions. Next slide. So this is empirical, statistical, and mathematical study of the human population. Okay, next slide. It focuses on 3 human phenomena. So we're not talking about just the size, but we also would like to know the composition of that population and how people are being distributed in that particular space or area. Why do you think it's important for us to know their distribution? Why? Why do you need to know about the distribution of the people? Would it affect the way
It'll
of
let
living?
you know the concentration of a disease or whether it affects an area, certain area more in that way.
Okay, correct. It could probably looking into how many people are actually living in coastal area or near a body of water. And what could be their exposure to some disasters, right? Okay. And how many people are living nearby a plant or a factory? What could be the reasons why these people are having now respiratory illnesses? Is it actually being affected by the pollution emitted in this factory? So you can try to look into the distribution and knowing also their exposure. Are they living closely together, having not enough or good ventilation? So meaning respiratory illnesses can easily be transmitted, right? Either living in a swamp area. So it's not just how they are being distributed, but also looking into the way of living. Where do they live? Where do they concentrate most? So it is also concerned with seeking the reasons and explanations for changes that occur in one particular place. So demography can actually give us now also explanation on certain phenomena. Why do you think people are leaving the area and migrating to another place? Why are the people in the other hand would like to live in this locality? Have you seen significant change in the number of people living 10, 20 years ago? We do wonder why. Okay, next slide. So there are a lot of focus or foci of demography. There are a lot of concentration on the demography. So let's try to look into the 3 major elements of demography. First is the size. How many people live in a given place at a given time? You would always wonder or observe when you were still young, like 10, 15 years, 20 years ago, when you live in a place wherein it's not yet developed. I always share to this younger generation that during our times, this place were just a lot of we call it talahib or some grasses, wild grasses growing everywhere. There are not much of these buildings or even malls, no. But look at this place now. Once you start develop building malls, building school, churches, hospital, people are now trying to thrive and live nearby these places. That's primarily the reason why also the real estate, no, the cost of land or houses would triple or even quadruple in just given period of time because of the development, no? So you would also would like to know, looking back, what's the history of this place? It used to be what? It used to be a swamp area. Now, the government reclaimed this. And now it actually becomes an urban or residential area. No? You would also know the background of that community. Some would also try to research on who are the first inhabitants, who are the group of people, how many families are actually living here before it become now a developed area. So it involves careful definition of the place, the person, and also the time. Do not forget the time element. Okay? Because 20 years ago would not be the same. That place would be not the same 20 years ago. You also want to know the immediate causes of changes in the population that are influenced by birth, by death, and even by migration. Okay? So why do you think there's a lot of people migrating in this place? Why a lot of people are dying in this place? Or why a lot of people are giving birth? So we would like to also know what's in it in this place or in this population size. Next slide, the population composition or structure. This pertains to all the measurable characteristics of the people who make up a given population. Meaning, you try to differentiate them based on their gender, their age group, their marital status. Why do you think it's important to know the civil or marital status? What it actually gives information, what information it can give. So what if these are married, single, divorced, widowed? What information it can give us? The marital status. What follows through with the marital status? Hello? What do you think you need to know about the marital status? Why do you care about the marital status? Anyone? Guys, are you still with me?
Sir, it may give you an idea of the composition of the family or whether the partner is deceased. Something like that.
Composition of a family, it can actually follows through when you know about the marital status, how many people are married, how many people are single. It also follows through how many people are dependent on this particular group of people. Because it also follows through that these are married, do they have children, and how many children do they have? Right? And it also follows through, no, that among married, what could also be the predisposition on certain diseases. Okay? It can also give us now, okay, married. So are we talking about how productive they are? How reproductive. Also, the reproductive years among the married age group, no? And how they are actually exposed now to certain diseases. Education, occupation, and even religion. Why do you think it's important for us to know the religion? Will it affect the population? I don't know exactly why it takes a lot of time for you to answer practical questions such as, why do you need to know about religion in a demography or a population? Why? Alishba, Shinash.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what information can you give out of knowing the religion? Huh? Why? Why do you need to know about religion? So what if I would know that these are people, majority are Buddhists, majority are Muslims? Why? What's the impact? Exactly, what's the impact of the religion in the population? Gurung, Akanshka, Akansha, Gurung.
Sir, to see how a certain set of religion is performing than others, how they are living in a population rather than like in different groups.
It can also affect the health beliefs, right? Religion practices can also influence the health beliefs of the people and how they behave. This religion is the way of living of the people. So knowing exactly the population, majority of the population are Muslims, majority are Buddhists. It can also give us a lot of clues in their way of living. So therefore, some group of people are not keen to eat certain foods because of their religious practices, right? See? Occupation. Why you need to know about occupation? Why?
So the health hazards will depend on the occupation of the person.
Hazards, exposure. Remember that a lot of people, if these are working, no, majority of their lives, majority of their hours would be spent outside their houses because they are working. And what kind of exposure or hazard, occupational hazards, are they exposed to? Raj, Bharat? Yes, you're raising your hand. Okay, next slide. So you know about the size, you know about the composition, but you also need to know the distribution, no? How people are distributed in specific place. So we also know about it now. Okay, next slide. So there are uses of demography in public health. Okay, it helps us to identify and characterize health problems that are prevalent or besetting a country. Therefore, we can plan, we can prioritize, and we can implement health programs rationally. Also, you can probably think of programs that can be beneficial with the limited resources, no? Especially in poor areas. So that's why you need to prioritize. So a lot of people are getting sick, and among this age group, this needs to have more concern or more priority because this age group, you could see that a lot of people are getting sick here, no? To control and prevent health problems by studying the determinants or the factors and reasons for their occurrence. Okay? Remember, if you're going to be doing research, if you're going to do a particularly community study, always think that you are investigator, a public health investigator. You will always have to answer the question, why and how? It's not just a matter of knowing what, who, but more importantly, why and how. Okay? So to predict the future developments and their possible consequences also. Next slide. So there are tools that we use in demography, and these are counts. So we actually use numbers, absolute numbers of a population or any demographic event occurring in specific time or area during specific period. So if you're going to give me numbers, please try to be more specific and detailed as you can. 30,443,287 males in the Philippines in 1990. Okay, so you give details of the time, place, and the numbers. Okay? Next slide. Ratio. Why do you need to discuss about the ratio? And what is a ratio? Anyway, this is a single number that represents a relative size of two numbers. Basically, ratio is a comparative number wherein you want to relate one population subgroup to another subgroup on the same population. So it usually takes a form of A, and you have a denominator and a numerator. So 6 ratio, what's the ratio of number of males versus the number of females? And then you multiply it by 100. So you get your percentage. Okay, next slide. A proportion is a special type of ratio in which the numerator is part of the denominator, meaning the relation of a population subgroup to the entire population. Okay, so you want to know the number of living in the urban area relative to the entire population. So you choose a subgroup and then you try to compare it with the entire population. Next slide. The rate is the frequency of occurrence or events over a given period of time. For example, crude rates. This is computed for the entire population. Specific rates are computed on specific subgroup. Okay, so you have sample like that, no? Most of the rates are expressed per 1,000. So, for example, no, number of registered live births in a year over mid-year population of you women aged 15 to 44. And this is your fertility, general fertility rate times 1,000. Okay, next slide. So you want to know, or how are you going, next slide. You want to describe the population composition by looking into the age and sex. And this is the most basic characteristic of a population. Okay? You would wonder, during your defense and research, you would always be asked by your panelists, who is your target population? We will often ask you that. This is the most basic question during the defense. Who is your target group? What is your target group? Doctor, we choose the third-year medical students. Why? Because they have been in the school or university for quite some time now. Okay, how did you choose your target population? Among the third group, the third-year level medical students, what's the composition of your third-year medical student? You need to be very detailed about it. A doctor, those who are actually enrolled from June and then until March of the school year, with the load, are we also looking in, will it also affect if there are regular students or irregular students? Okay, are there transferee or they're actually in the university from first year? Will it affect also the output? It could be, okay, because a discrepancy in your target population among its population will actually give doubts or inconsistencies. No? Why would you include certain group of medical students that are not entirely fitting in your target population? That's why also you have your inclusive or exclusive criteria, inclusion or exclusion criteria. Doctor, we include this blah, blah, blah. Doctor, we exclude these people. Okay? So you want to describe the population composition. Knowing the sex composition, the ratio and the structure, the age, and the age and sex composition. Next slide. So you need to be very particular in how are you going to describe your population. The sex ratio compares the number of males to the number of females in the population. Okay, we know that already. Next slide. The sex structure determines by computing for the sex ratio of each age group. Now, this is very sensitive for some group of people also. How about, doctor, those who are belonging in the LGBT group? Okay, would it actually differ now? Like we have hearing trans woman, transgender, trans man. Okay, you need also to differentiate it with the sex by birth. We are talking here about sex by birth, not sex by choice or preferences. Now, if your topic will actually influence the sex, particularly the gender preference, you need also to be specific on that. Like, for example, health behaviors. Would it actually differ, or health practices, particularly with their sex activities? Okay? You have male and female. But would it actually affect their preferences when it comes to sex or gender? You have male, but out of that male, who are them are actually preferred to have the sex with the same sex, with the same gender? So you need to be also particular in their preferences depending on your chosen topic. Example, if you're going to be discussing about exposure of certain sexually transmitted diseases, okay, or probably use of condoms, use of certain family control, you also need to give us their preferences. Or we're just probably presuming that these are all male, female, straight. No? So depending on your chosen topic, you also need to know or give us a description on their preferences. It's not enough for us to know, okay, male, female, that's it. But it depends on your topic, no? It depends on your research. If you need to be more particular with their preferences when it comes to gender, because it would affect now their lifestyle, their sex activity, then you need to mention that also. Okay, next slide. But we are talking here about the demography. We're talking here about in general population, no? So we're not talking here about preferences per se, but we are talking here by birth, no? The sex or the gender by birth. Next slide. The age composition. Median age is the age at which exactly half of the population is older or half is younger. So if the computed median age is 15, half of the population is age 15 and over half and above is below 15. So that's the median age. Next slide. Age dependency ratio refers to the ratio of persons in the dependent segment of the population to those in the economically productive group. Why do you need to know about this age dependency ratio? What information it can give us?
So it lets you know the population, the ratio of the population that is dependent on your economically productive group. Maybe they're in a family or they're not working, they're unemployed.
Yeah. If we are working or not employed, yes. But the problem with certain third world countries such as India or probably the Philippines, the developing countries, the age dependency ratio cannot be as an accurate. Why? Because some, even at the age of 15 or even minor, are still working already. No? So even if I'm 15 years old, you would presume that I'm dependent to my parents. But the problem is that, in fact, in reality, even if I'm 15 years old, I'm already working. And even the 65, 67, 68 years old, presuming that they already retired, but they're still working. So the age dependency ratio can sometimes be also inaccurate. So you need to be careful with your age dependency ratio. Knowing their age, you also have to know if they are working or not. And mind you, there are certain countries that they still allow even minors to work. Okay? So if you're going to give me age dependency ratio, I would probably ask you, out of that, are you sure that this is actually accurate? Or did you even ask this minor 15 age group, 15 to 17, are still in school, or most of them are actually working? I am looking some comments that someone is removing several times from the meeting. What is this? Only the hosts are allowed to remove.
No, doctor, the setting is not like that. I will check on that.
Next slide, please. So the ADR, we are talking here, people who are belonging from 0 to 14 plus 65 years over 15 to 64. You see, it depends on the age group. There are a lot of people still working, even they're minors, no? So this is actually giving us an index of the age-induced economic drain or manpower resources. If you have a lot of people dependent on the working class, you have a lot of people to feed. So the resources, the available food, water, basic needs will be distributed among these dependent people. So what if now you have short or low percentage of who can able to work versus a lot of people who are dependent? So you could see that there's going to be problem with that, because only few can work, but a lot of people, a lot of mouths to feed, right? Okay, so probably this can be attributed now. Okay, now this is precisely the reason why a lot of people here or children are malnourished. Or a lot of people cannot be able to go to school because they need to work. Because a lot of people are actually having illnesses or dying because no one can actually take care of the younger or the older ones because they are working. So there are a lot of information that you can derive from. Next slide. So this is the age, the distribution of the population by the age group in the Philippines. In here, you could see, no, that the working class, 15 to 64, 57.1. So what you can see or what you can view here in this table with the age dependency ratio of 75.3. What you can say about this? What you can say? What's your observation? Hello? Anyone, please? Let's go ahead. Just answer. No need to raise your hand. Hello? Can someone please answer me? You are 490 here. What can you say about this table, about this figure that you are looking into your screen? A 75.3 age dependency ratio.
So that's the ratio for the 0 to 14 and 65 and over combined.
So what it actually gives us now, the 75.3. What can you conclude?
For every 100 people, there are 75 people dependent.
It could be true, yes. Therefore,
The population has a majority of dependent people.
I only have one student here. Who are you? Out of 488, I only have one student here answering me. It means I only have one student is interested to learn. I told you before, during our face-to-face, I hate dull moments. I hate silence. Baraj, can you please put down your hand? Bharat Raj.
Doctor, while presenting, I didn't able to do that.
You have 75.3 age dependency ratio. Out of 100, you have 75 people who are dependent. What this actually tells us now?
The working population is less.
Who are working under the age of 15 or above 54. So this graph tells us most the population is working. And
Okay. So there are a lot of people who are dependent in the working group. There are a lot of people to feed. Right?
Yes,
you see this age. But however, I can also, again, as I emphasize, that the age dependency ratio cannot be as an accurate. Okay? It could even be more than 75.3. Next slide. So what are the factors that can affect the population's age composition? The fertility level, the peace and order situation, and also the urban-rural differences. In urban, the older age composition than the rural, right? So what's the difference between the urban and the rural? Have you noticed there are a lot of people living in the rural areas that are older compared to the urban areas? Is it also true in India that most of the elders, they live longer in the rural area compared to the urban areas? Is it
Yes,
also
sir.
true?
Yes, sir.
Why? Why do you think so, sir?
Because in urban areas, so much pollution, working pressure, so much tense situation. But in rural area, lot of people do farming and live in the nature. So they have good environment around and good food. In urban area, food quality also low. So they live less compared to rural area.
Okay. But what's the problem with the rural area? Yes, a lot of people are living longer because of the lifestyle, because of the fresh food, fresh air, less stress, no pollution. But what's the problem with the rural area living in those places? Despite of, yes, limited what?
So the people in the rural area don't get like proper amenities. There are various healthcare problems. They don't get proper healthcare system, and also there is no availability of other products that is available in urban areas.
Okay, very good. There are some limited resources or facilities that available in our people in the rural areas because these are mostly concentrated in the urban. So that's why you could see that people Older people needs to go to the urban only to go to the hospital. And sometimes even the basic needs like drinking water, even electricity, no infrastructures, nice roads, there are still limited. So that's now the problem with the rural areas. They tend not to develop it because maybe the government is thinking, why will we develop rural areas anyway? There are only few people live here. I don't see a good business indication. So that's the problem. No? Next slide. So the age composition or the population pyramid, this is a graphical representation of the age-sex composition of the population. So let's try to look into the age-sex composition on looking in the pyramid. Okay, next slide. So this is the population pyramid in the Philippines by 2000. You start it from the elder, from the top, below, which is actually the youngest. Okay? And looking into the pyramid, what you can see in the pyramid? What can you actually, if you're going to interpret this pyramid, what can you say about the population in the Philippines?
So the population is growing as there are higher numbers of minors.
Okay, the population is growing. Next slide, please. Are we looking into the pyramid now? Okay. What can you say about the pyramid? What could be the problem of this pyramid if you have like this?
In younger age, male number of
Okay, I only have one
more,
student here.
and the female number less, but in the older age, female number more than male.
And so what?
So there's a higher
there's
age dependence ratio here.
Okay, can you consider this population as young population?
Yes, sir. As there are a lot of younger people here, you can consider
Yes.
this as a young population.
So a lot of people, younger population, they can be productive or they can be dependent, right? But there are a lot of people on the younger group can take care of those who will be getting older, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's why some people also think that younger population have a high potential to be productive or high potential for this country to develop. Only if this younger population would really have enough support or opportunity, right? But remember, if you're gonna have a younger population, a lot of funds or a lot of your resources will have to be distributed in this younger population. So that's why the government prioritize, okay, we need to prioritize the vaccination program. We need to prioritize the maternal child care. We have to make sure that they have enough supplements for their vitamins. They need to provide a lot of programs are actually concentrated in this age group because they need to take care of this younger generation, right? Okay, next slide. But if you're going to look into the other countries, no, it is gonna be a different story. Okay, next slide. How are you going to construct a population pyramid? So you compute the percentage of the population falling in the age-sex group using the total population, and then the age group is presented by horizontal bar. The first bar representing the youngest age group, it should be at the base of the pyramid. The bars for males are presented on the left side of the central axis, while the bars of the females are presented on the right side. Why? Because women are always right. Okay? So you don't argue with women. They will always be on the right. Agree?
Yes,
Especially
sir.
those who are married. Yeah. Would you agree?
No, sir.
Ah,
No.
okay. Okay, now you're doomed with your girlfriend. Okay? So the length of each bar, I'm just kidding, okay? The length of each bar is corresponds to the percent of the population falling in the specific age and sex group being plotted. Next slide. So you have this number and percent distribution of the population by age and sex in Batangas province, my hometown, in 1990. So if you're going to plot this and make it a pyramid, you would appear to be like this. Next slide. So that would be the pyramid, no? The population pyramid in Batangas in 1990. Okay, so what can you say about this pyramid? What can you say?
The population is bit higher than females.
Huh?
The population of males is a bit higher than females.
Higher
In the earlier age groups, the population of males is higher than females.
the population of male is higher than the female. Okay. What else?
Doctor, it is because the birth sex ratio is more in males, and because the females live longer than males. So in the older age, we'll find more females in the older age group as compared to males. But in the younger age, because the males are born more, they have more birth sex ratio. So
Okay.
in the younger age, we find
Good.
more males.
Okay, very good observation. If you notice, this is correct. If you notice, there's a lot of males are being born and the younger, but as they grow older, the female tends to live longer. You could see on the top, right? Now, the female surpass already the male, right? But in the younger years, they're almost equal or most of them are male, but as they grow older, males tend to live shorter compared to the female. It's a good observation. Correct. Next slide. So you have types of population pyramid. So you have your type 1. It has a broad base, a typical pyramid with the gently sloping sides, high rates of birth and death, with low median age and high dependency ratio. So this is what this type 1 or type pyramid depicts, no? So example, in the Philippines, next slide, you have high rates of birth here, no? And also death, but low median age with high dependency ratio. Okay, next slide. You have your type 2. It has a broader base with the sides bow in each much more sharply. So you have reduction in the infant and child mortality, but the median age is decreasing. So let's have a look. So here, this is found in Angola in year 2012. No? You have reduction in the infant and child mortality. That's why they need to have a steep. But the problem here is the median age is decreasing. Okay, next slide. The type 3, it's a beehive. It's a typical Western European countries wherein it has low birth rate, but the median age is highest. So the dependency ratio is low, with dependents mostly are elderlies, not the younger ones. So have a look. This is in, next slide. This is going to happen in Philippines in 2050. It's actually a prediction that there's gonna be the trend of this. And in other countries, particularly in Europe, no, in Europe, that European countries, a lot of people getting married, but most of them don't want to have kids. If they're gonna have kids, they would just limit it from 1 to 2. Unlike with the other Asian countries, average of children would be about 4, 5 children, right? But most of the European countries or developed countries, no, they tend to have no children, but they're married. So it's a different scenario in different countries. So next slide. Oh, interesting. In 2010, India, the population pyramid looks like typical one, just like in the Philippines. But in 2050, this is going to be a beehive. Why do you think they have a projection like this in 2050? Any
As
idea?
India is
Yes.
developing, and getting on the new Western views, so the population, the median population that is working right now, is highly inclined toward the Western views and the cultures. So, and also like people are getting less children, so it might be the reason because of which India is projected towards this type of population pyramid.
Okay. Very good.
And so also you can say that as the population of India is on a high rise, there might be some government schemes or some things to cut the population, because of which we
But
might see low
why
birth.
do you think people are in India tend to live longer? Compared in 2010, you would see the age group from 55 up to 90. Now people tend to live longer.
Sure, because with time the medical facilities have improved in India. Because first it was a
Okay.
developing country. So with time there is a strict prediction that India will improve in its healthcare facilities and healthcare sector. So
Okay. And
yeah,
also
the
maybe the
hospital.
lifestyle of the people.
Yeah, so more people will be concerned about their health, about their
Okay.
lifestyle. So they will shift from their sedentary lifestyle and they will involve more physical exercise in their lives.
Okay. Or probably in the next few years, the retirement age would be lesser. What's the retirement age in India?
Mm,
60
and
years, sir.
they
50?
are in
60,
different
sir.
type.
60.
They are different type of occupation, different retirement age. Like in army, you
In
can retire.
government.
Yes, in
60
government
years, sir.
army. In government army, you can retire after 15 year of your work. But in
Service.
teacher and other services, when you are at 60, you can retire. But in some occupation, the age will be higher, like 70 years, 65. That's depend on occupation. And the government have some project on control population, like hum do, hamare do.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true, it's true.
Agree?
Yeah, doc.
Okay. So you think early retirement can actually improve the lifestyle of the people?
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
obviously,
sir.
sir, because if person will improve his lifestyle, so it will add more to his lifespan. If he will include more physical exercise, if he will more uh, improve his lifestyle, if he will remain away from these abusing substances like alcohol, drugs, or
Yeah,
smoking.
provided that these people have an early retirement, provided that their money can last long. Correct? That their money, their pension, their hard-earned money will able to support them even
Yeah,
longer.
because in today's world, the financial stability also plays a major role in what a
This
person's
is
life.
also the reason why a lot of people in European countries have an early retirement. They were able to enjoy their lives to the fullest because
Because
majority
obviously they are
they have
they are first world
bigger,
countries, so
yes, they
they
have
are
bigger
more income.
taxes allotted. They have they need to deduct a big portion of their salary that would be allotted when they will retire. Because these rich people, they are not really rich, but they just have enough money to spend. Because imagine in Norway, perhaps, example, 32% would be deducted from their salary, and this will be saved when they retire. So that's why they get more money. They just spend it in casinos, in cruises, and they have what? They don't need to worry about getting sick because once they go to hospital, they'll already be free, even if they undergo surgery. That's why they would say that these rich countries have the best of the world because they have enough funding. Because why? Because they have low population. Problem here is you have rich country with a low population and they don't have ways on how to gonna spend their money. The problem with other countries, they have bigger population with less resources, with less money. So this is where the
Yeah,
problem actually goes
the
down.
main problem in India is its population, because in this year it has already surpassed China in its population.
Yeah,
So the main problem is its population. So the
yeah.
government of India should induce some measures to reduce the population. So it will be better for India's future.
Okay. So next slide, please. I like to have this kind of discussion. Every time I do lecture, I want you to become critical, not just listening, not just reading. You need to be more critical.
Yeah,
What
true. Yeah.
what the topics are presented to you and apply it because you're going to be the one be affected by this. What you have learned, you can apply this in the future when you become a doctor because you have already now early realization. Anyway, 10, 20, 30 years from now, you'll be the one going to be affected by this. Okay, next slide. Okay, so bell-shaped transitional type of pyramid wherein it represents a population which after more than 100 years of declining birth and death rates, it has reversed the trend in fertility while maintaining the death rate at a low level. Okay, you think you have this kind of uh, population pyramid in certain parts of the world? Yes, let's have a look. So this is partly true in Jamaica. Comparing in 1950 in the predictive of 2020, 2010, and 2050. You see? So this is actually the transitional type of pyramid wherein there is a decline in the birth and death rate and thus reverse the trend in the fertility. Okay, type 5. So we have a question here. If a country is experiencing a rapid decline in its population, what would be the best remedy? Rapid decline in the population. Meaning, people, married couple tend to not to have children. And you don't have much of people working. And most of this declining population, they have more elders to take care. So what could be the remedy? Or what could be the solution? Or why do you think these countries would shift some policies? Okay, maybe you can answer that question.
So because in many countries now, especially in Asian countries, the population is overshooting. So the
No, we're
government of that countries need to
population.
control the population growth there.
We're talking about declining population, meaning people, married couple tend not to have children, or since they have declining population, who would take care of the elder ones? Example, Japan and Canada.
Japan has more elder people.
Yes, that's their problem. Canada is also a big country but less population. But they are a rich country. So what do you think would be the measures taken by the government?
So as the measures taken by Canada and Japan right now, like promoting immigration and
Yes,
making out policies.
Migration policies. They are now inviting people to work and live in their countries. That's why they're now easy. If you're going to apply as an immigrant, in a span of 1 year, 2 years, you can bring along all your family there. Provided that you can prove to them that you can work and become productive, not dependent on the resources of your government. Right? So this is primarily the reason why more countries now are opening their borders to immigrants. Correct. And even, especially, healthcare providers like us, doctors and nurses. We are among the easiest professionals that can go or migrate to other countries, provided you have qualifications. So if you are dreaming to work or live in these areas, now you're pursuing to become a doctor. This is going to be your stepping stone, right? Then most of you is actually, this is their plan. Okay? So, it will also affect now the demographic of that particular place. There are certain countries or certain cities in particular countries that they even more immigrants than the locals. Yes? Especially the working class. For example, Dubai. Do you know that there are actually more workers than the locals in Dubai?
Yeah, so that's the reason why the male sex ratio is the highest in UAE.
Yes, in the UAE.
Yeah, the males are very much because from all over the world, many workers go there for the sake of job and job opportunities and all.
Okay, let's look now into the type 5. Next slide, please. The type 5 population, which is experiencing a marked and rapid decline in fertility. So there is a rapid reduction in the birth rate, but they also have low death rate. So what country would be like this? Next slide. This is true now in Italy, where in Italy, the population of Italy has doubled during the 20th century. But the pattern of growth has extremely uneven because there is a large-scale internal migration from the rural south to the industrial cities of the north, which is now happened as a consequence of your Italian economic miracle. So according to the Italian government, they have 4.5 million foreign residents in Italy. Okay, so they had already experienced also large scale of immigration. No, so they have started to open their borders in 1980s. There's a lot of people working and living now in Italy. Okay, next slide. Other population characteristics have high life expectancy at birth. In average numbers of years of an infant is expected to live under the mortality conditions for a given year. So this is based on specific death rates for a given year. So this is a hypothetical measure or indicator of the current health condition. Meaning, you have a low life expectancy is in part due to high infant mortality rate. Meaning, a lot of people, a lot of infants die even before even reaching age 1. Okay? So that's the problem. Life expectancy at birth, it is also a hypothetical indicator of the health condition. Why there are a lot of infants are getting died when in fact they should be having, they need to live longer. So if you have good or good health conditions. Next slide. In here, we could see the life expectancy at birth in the Philippines from 1960 to 2000. What did you notice? There is a...
Doctor, the females have more life expectancy than males.
And there
life
is...
expectancy is also increasing in
as
the
it
years.
Yes. Okay, but not as significant as with your females. Okay? That's why if you're going to be in the insurance industry, which I'm actually a part-timer, if you tend to sell an insurance policy between male and female, who do you think is more expensive to buy an insurance? The male or the females? If you're going to sell an insurance policy, who do you think is more expensive? Selling it to the male, insuring a male or insuring a female client?
Male client.
Why male client?
Because they less care about their life.
Therefore,
less care about their life.
Therefore,
so as male tend to work in higher risk jobs, so we can say that the male life expectancy becomes lower.
Okay.
So ensuring them would have higher risk conditions as people work in mines, people work in as truck drivers, they have higher risk in their job involved.
And the main reason is also the male behavior in the biology, because the male behavior is aggressive, so they tend to be more involved in accidents and more difficult circumstances than females.
Okay, why do you think females live longer than males? Okay, any female in the group?
The main reason comes down to the sex chromosomes, because the females have XX and
hear from the female. Hold on. Why do you think female live longer? Any female in the group? Female.
Oh.
You don't have female in the group?
They are shy, doctor. That's
females. Why do you think you live longer? Come on, guys. Females, are you paying attention?
All females sleeping, sir.
So,
all females have left the book now.
It's probably because the biological differences, the hormones in females tend to reduce their health risk. So that's why they probably live longer.
What else?
Sometimes
behavioral
the women are more unemployed and they cannot do more risk jobs. like male do in compared to the female.
Who have more vices? Smoking, alcohol drinking, males or females?
Males.
It's the male. Who
Yes.
handles stress most of
Males.
the time? It's the males.
Yes.
But the female can also handle stress even more, right?
Female can handle better than males, but we have more chances risk in the males because they go out, they do the jobs, they take a risk for the family. Uh, they always the family whole depend upon a male. But nowadays the frequency has changed. The woman is also working and making themselves independent, so more chances are there that female can also can be have the chances.
Hey, you see, if you're going to be selling insurance, it's more expensive than male because of the reasons you have explained or mentioned. Precisely that they can claim, or the beneficiaries can claim earlier on compared to the female because they're going to die early. So you make sure females, if you get married, insure them right away. Okay? Because if they're going to die early on, then you're going to be living with a widow. And you're going to be living with your children alone. So if you're not going to insure your husbands as early on, you will suffer the losses. Right? So that's why it's more expensive to get an insurance and insure the male compared to the female. Because they live shorter compared to the female. Next slide. So now in 2011, it's estimated that the life expectancy in the Philippines is 71.66, with the males of 68 and the females of 74 years. So still, female have a longer life expectancy compared to the male. Next slide. So if you're going to describe a population distribution, you would see the pattern of the settlement and dispersals of the population within the country or area. Next slide. The measures or indicators of the population. We have already discussed now the density, the urban-rural distribution, and the crowding index. So what are these things? No? Next slide. The urban-rural distribution is the percentage of the population living in the urban areas compared to the total population. So if you want to know, or if you have only the rural area, you just need to deduct or minus it from the total population. You will get the urban areas. Okay? So in 1990, the population of country was 57% living in the urban area. What does it say? Why do we need to know about the urban-rural distribution?
So as a half of the population was in urban area, we can say that there was more employment in the urban areas due to which people migrated from rural areas.
It could be, yes. If a lot of people are living in the urban, you could probably think that people might be working, people are actually using facilities or try to use the resources in the urban compared, or in the urban areas, you could also see people living closely together. And that leads now to the population density. Next slide. Wherein it is expressed as the number of people per unit of land. So the total population compared to the total land area. I could imagine in big cities like New Delhi, Mumbai, no, you have high population density because it's too crowded. Also, when you look into the Metro Manila, in one land area, you could actually expect 3 or 4 families living in that area, right? That is also true in India, correct? Especially in the urban areas. So next slide. So here you could see the percent distribution of the population by rural, urban, rural residences by region. So we are in the National Capital Region, wherein this is considered a urban. It's not a rural. But in certain region, you could see that they already have high urban compared to the rural. Even these are provinces, like in your southern Tagalog, no? And now becoming more and more closer in western, northern, or southern Mindanao. So they try now to develop certain lands or areas to become it more urbanized. Next slide. Crowding index used to gauge the relative ease with which transmission of communicable diseases can occur in the household. So the total number of persons in a household versus over the number of rooms in the house. So the higher of the index, the easier it would be. It would be for the disease transmission to occur. So this is also true with airborne diseases such as your what? Tuberculosis. No? Too crowded, you could expect that a lot of people will kind of have that. Next slide. First of the population size. There's a natural increase in rate of the natural increase, with both deals with excess of births over death. I think this is self-explanatory. Okay, let's just skip and go to your last slide, 56. So we have discussed the following about the demography. We actually able to look into the elements and focus what are the uses of your demography in public health, and what are the tools in describing your demography, measures or indicators used in describing the composition. Guys, let me remind you that during your examination, you will also expected to compute for your crude birth rate, your infant mortality rate, and things like that. So you'll be given formula wherein you're going to compute for that. Even your crowding index or your relative, your population density. Okay? So please expect to have during your examination. So I think that's the end of our discussion. For those who are able to answer and join or participate in our discussion, thank you very much for your interest. And we hope that you realize the importance of each of the topics that we are discussing in preventive medicine, especially in community health, during also in your practice as future doctors, no? Regardless of whatever specialization you're gonna take into. So I'm going to meet you next time again. If it's going to be face-to-face online, remember, I need some engagement. I don't want silence or pregnant or just inactive students joining my session. Okay? Thank you to the LO and to our leaders for keeping in. Okay? Goodbye, everyone. That's the end of our discussion.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, sir.